What's up, everyone? John Rettinger from Techno Buffalo here, back with another smartphone smackdown. This time we've got a carrier war. We've got AT&T's iPhone 4 squaring up against Verizon's Droid 2. We're going to put these two head-to-head in a grueling 9-round test and declare a winner. Let's get started. So we are going to put these two head-to-head in a 9-round series of tests. Rounds are going to include call quality, battery, browser, speed, signal, text entry, screen, specs, and a new category called value. Obviously, there's a lot more we could cover, but in the interest of brevity, we're going to limit it to just those 9 rounds. So let's jump right in. Let's talk about call quality. These are cell phones, and no matter what else they do, if they don't make good phone calls, they're not going to work for you. Well, call quality on each was very strong. On the iPhone 4, I had no white noise or popping on my end or the caller's other end, and the same thing on the Droid 2. Very crisp, very clear. However, on a 10-call test, driving in different areas, I had 2 dropped calls on the iPhone 4 compared to 1 dropped call on the Droid 2, and it's pretty representative of the dropped call issue. Nothing about the antennas. I haven't had any antenna issues really with the iPhone 4 since I had it covered and protected. But I have noticed that the Droid 2 does drop about 10% less phone calls than the iPhone 4 does. So because of that, round 1 call quality is going to the Droid 2. Now, these phones obviously do a lot of things, email, text, web browsing. It's going to take a lot of battery life. So these things need to be able to last at least a full day so you can get to your charger. So battery-wise, the iPhone 4 is going to give you 14 hours of talk time and 300 hours of standby. And the Droid 2 is going to give you 9.58 hours of talk time and 315 hours of standby. And that's just what Motorola and Apple claim. Real-world usage is actually very different. I'm as you can imagine, a very heavy smartphone user. I'm on the phone for a few hours a day. I'm doing a ton of browsing, and I always have push email on, getting a lot of emails. With the iPhone 4 on heavy usage, I generally have around 40% of battery life towards the end of the day. With the Droid 2 is around 20 to 10% battery life towards the end of the day. So real-world usage, I'm getting much better battery life out of the iPhone 4, using them both in the same way, really at the same times. So battery life is going to go to the iPhone 4. Next, let's talk about the browser. Like I mentioned, I use the browser quite a bit on my phones, and this is something where the iPhone used to have a very clear edge when Android first launched. Android didn't have multi-touch, it really didn't have the best browsing experience, so it was decent. Well, Android, once it got to the 2s, really took care of that, so 2.0, 2.1, 2.2, and the rest really brought the Android browser up to par with what you can expect on the iPhone 4. But let me go ahead and jump in and show you what the browsers look like on each, although you probably are familiar with both of them. So you got Techno Buffalo here queued up on both. It's very smooth browsing on the iPhone 4. Really one of the smoothest browsing experiences that I've seen. You can scroll without really experiencing any sort of checkerboard pattern. The multi-touch is really pretty smooth. No delay or lag at all. The iPhone does support HTML5, but does not support any type of Flash content. Now, that hasn't really been a problem for me, but I understand that I am not everyone out there. A lot of people rely on Flash content for their phones. And the iPhone is not going to deliver that. However, the Droid 2 may be more what you're looking for. Notice that the scrolling experience is not nearly as smooth as is on the iPhone 4. If you go back and forth, you can see that it's a little bit choppier here on the Droid 2. And the multi-touch as well is a little bit choppy on the Droid 2. But it does work, and it does work actually pretty well. You can double tap to resize and those sort of things that we're used to with browsing. However, the addition of Flash is really what gives the browser on the Droid 2, this is Flash 10.1, a little bit of an edge. Those of you that follow my channel, you know I just got married recently, and I wanted to view my wedding pictures and show them to my family online. Well, the site that they were on was unfortunately a Flash-based site, and I couldn't show it to them on my iPhone. But I had the Droid 2 with me that I was testing. I was able to show it nice and easily. So I could live with the less smooth scrolling, be able to view the internet as it was intended, and be able to have full Flash support. So round 3 is going to swing back the way of the Droid 2, and going to take this round. So next, let's talk very quickly about speed, and we'll talk about processor and such when we get to the specs round. But speed is very important as well, and I want to demonstrate speed actually on the browser. Let me go ahead and make sure everything is closed on each, so we're getting a apples to Android comparison here. So I've got an app killer, go ahead and kill everything. So everything is now killed on the Droid 2. Let me go ahead and do the same thing here We'll go ahead and just leave the browser open because that's what we're going to be working with. So open the browser here. We'll go ahead and open the browser here as well. And we're going to do a simple page refresh of Techno Buffalo, which is pretty image heavy. There's some videos embedded in there. Pretty representative, I think, of a typical web browsing experience. Now, in the interest of brevity, ordinarily I would test 3 or 4 different web pages. But once this test is done, I'll give you sort of my experiences about what it's been when I've tested other websites. So I'm going to go ahead and refresh Techno Buffalo. Go ahead and open it up here. We'll do the same thing here on the Droid 2. Go ahead and hit go on both. Alright, and we are off. Hit them both at the same time, and we'll see which one is going to come out on top. These are both connected to the same Wi-Fi network, so we should have pretty similar speeds. At least it's a fair test. And it looks like the Droid 2 finished just a second before the iPhone 4. In testing many other websites, I found the iPhone 4 generally finishes about 1 to 2 seconds earlier than the Droid 2 does. But for all intents and purposes, let's go ahead and load one more website on each. Let's go ahead and try ESPN. These are sites that have been loaded on both before. They'll be representative of sites you visit on a regular basis. Let's go ahead and try ESPN. It should probably pull up the mobile page, I would assume. And there's ESPN. So we'll go ahead and load up both of these. And we'll see which one comes out on top. So we'll put up the mobile page. The iPhone 4 finished a second before, but there's not much here on the mobile page. Let's go ahead and load up the real version of ESPN, which is extremely image and text heavy. So I'll go ahead and select it down there, and I'll select it down here, and we'll hit open at the same time. Open and open. And we'll let both of those go, and we'll see which one is faster. iPhone 4 is showing the content a little bit earlier. It's like the Droid 2 caught up pretty quickly. It's now showing a bit more content. iPhone 4 is almost done, so is the Droid 2, and the Droid 2 finished just a second before the iPhone 4. So when it comes to browsing, despite these tests, they look to be very even. Droid 2 is maybe taking a bit of an edge on these tests. In earlier tests, it was the iPhone 4. So browser to browser, it's relatively close. You're going to get a pretty good experience on each. So go ahead and close out of this. And let's talk about speed of the operating system and speed of the devices as a whole. I've tested a lot of Android devices and a lot of Snapdragon Android devices. And I found the processor that this is running, we'll talk about this more in the specs, the TI OMAP, clocked in about 1 gigahertz, to be a bit laggy. And really just laggy on the Droid 2. It's much quicker on something like the Droid X. For example, when I want to unlock the screen, it's a bit slow. It takes a second to sort of react to my finger, and then even a second later you get that haptic feedback. When I go ahead and launch things up in the application tray, it doesn't launch as quickly as I've seen in other Android devices, which is a bit disappointing. If I go ahead and open the calendar, it seems to be a bit of a delay, just not as snappy as other devices I've seen. On the iPhone, for example, I think things are loading very quickly, and it's optimized just for the processor. I know there's probably going to be a bit of feedback about this round and whether or not it was biased or not, but I can't show you everything that I've done with both devices here in interest again of just brevity. But using the phones speed to speed wise, the iPhone 4 just